My wife is addicted to the gym, and it's ruining our marriage. My wife is 30 and has always been dedicated to fitness. She's consistently worked out and stayed in shape, but lately I feel like it's becoming too much. She used to work out regularly at the gym when she was in college. Eventually, due to her schedule, she shifted to working out at home or going for runs outside. About 18 months ago, she decided to get back into her gym routine, as her new job allowed her more time for it. At first, it was just a normal gym habit, but gradually it intensified. She signed up for weekend classes both days, started going every day, and now it's twice a day, mornings before work and evenings. Every single day. If she's stressed, she goes to the gym. If she's facing a life crisis, she runs to the gym. Even after an argument, her immediate response is to head to the gym. Right now, she's 4 months pregnant, and I'm honestly surprised we even found the time to conceive. I know it's generally safe for her to work out since she's been doing it before the pregnancy, but what concerns me is the intensity hasn't lessened at all. If she misses a session, she becomes irritable, almost like she's dependent on it. It feels like too much of a good thing has turned into something unhealthy. When I voice my concerns, it hasn't gone well. I've told her I miss spending time with her because she's always at the gym. She's built an entire social circle there and seems to prefer being with them over me. I've suggested working out together, but she insists the gym is her time. And it's not like I'm feeling insecure. I work out too, and my job requires me to stay in shape. My issue isn't that I'm jealous. It's that her gym routine feels obsessive. I believe she's over-exercising. While working out is healthy, there is such a thing as too much. More than that, I feel like the gym has become her escape. Instead of dealing with problems, she just works out to get that endorphin boost. And because she's at the gym so often, she doesn't have time for anything else. Chores, daily responsibilities, or even quality time together. I found myself taking care of everything, which I don't mind doing, but it should be more of a shared effort. Others have started noticing too. Friends and family have commented on how often she's at the gym, with some even suggesting she might be having an affair with someone there. Update 1. She won't let me join her at her gym, and she refuses to come to mine. She's adamant that her gym is her space and my gym is mine. I've invited her, but she always declines. She's currently 18 weeks pregnant, and despite being pregnant, her workout intensity hasn't changed at all. Initially, I didn't think there was any truth to the idea of her cheating. People brought it up in my last post, but I brushed it off. She's always at the gym, so it's not like she's hiding that from me. However, after reading through the comments, I started questioning whether I was being too confident in her fidelity. A few days ago, she left her phone on the kitchen counter, which is unusual as she usually always has it with her. I felt foolish, but I decided to take a quick look. I saw a conversation with a guy whose name I recognized, someone from her gym that she's mentioned before. She's got a lot of friends there, and I wasn't worried until I read the messages. I know things now that I never wanted to know, like what this guy's dick looks like. I only had a minute or two before she came back, so I couldn't read much, but it was enough. I confronted her about it immediately, and she got defensive, yelling at me for looking at her phone. I told her I was ashamed I had looked, but her gym obsession had been bothering me so much that I felt I needed to check. She kept saying, "It's nothing," but it sure didn't seem like nothing to me. I asked if she had been sleeping with him, and she denied it. I was so angry I smashed her phone on the ground, and she hit me in response. I left the house and went to my brother's. When I returned later, she was in bed crying, acting like she didn't know if I was ever coming back. I took her phone to get it repaired, even though I don't think she deserves it, and I still feel guilty for breaking it. I still don't know how deep this goes. She won't admit to anything beyond what I saw. Was it just sexting, or was there more? I'm convinced there's more, but she's acting like I'm the villain for breaking her phone. It wasn't my proudest moment, but after she hit me, I honestly wanted to hit back. Of course, I didn't, and I never would, but I'm just at a complete loss for how to move forward from here. Update 2. My wife admitted to an affair. Today, my wife asked me to stay home from work so we could talk. She had spent all of yesterday in bed trying to get me to feel sorry for her, but I paid no attention and ended up going to my family's Super Bowl party. I wasn't in the mood, but I wasn't about to stay home with her either. It really bothered her that I left. She kept texting me things like, "Who just leaves like that?" When something like this is happening. Who is that cold and callous to just leave for a party? I stayed home today to talk. She was full of tears, saying she was so sorry. According to her, she really had been going to the gym twice a day because she liked it. That's where her friends are and it made her feel good. She said it was fun for her. She met this guy at the gym, and he started flirting with her. Everyone likes him. He's apparently one of the most popular people there. I didn't realize there were popular people at gyms. She admitted to flirting back, but claimed she didn't mean anything by it. At first, she didn't reciprocate much, but he gave her butterflies, and she found herself flirting without thinking. She said it felt like having a crush, like when she was younger. They started texting, and at first, it was friendly, nothing sexual for several months, but she felt giddy every time he messaged her. She was really attracted to him, but told him she was married, and that nothing could ever happen between them. According to her, he kept flirting anyway and said, "Sure, we won't cross the line. Until they did. She said she tried to resist, but one day they kissed. She admitted to enjoying it, but also feeling it was wrong. Clearly, she didn't feel too bad because later that night, she slept with him for the first time. She described it as falling in love for the first time, saying all she could think about was him. Is she in love with him? She doesn't know. Is the baby mine? She thinks so, but there's a small chance it could be his. He always uses a condom, so she doesn't think it's his, but they were sleeping together around the time she got pregnant. She says she loves me, but she can't help the spark between them. She doesn't know if she loves him. She doesn't know if the baby is mine. She doesn't know why she did this or what she thinks we should do. The final blow came when she said, "You would really leave me if it's not your baby, wouldn't you?" She actually had the nerve to ask that. I told her, of course, I would leave her. I'm not raising another man's child. She seemed shocked. She asked, "Really? With everything we have, all our history, you wouldn't even consider it?" I told her I'd never consider it. She tearfully agreed to get a DNA test, as if I'm supposed to feel sorry for her. I don't even know who this woman is anymore. She cried the whole time, but not out of shame or guilt. Those were tears for herself, meant to make me feel bad. Feel bad for what? That her heart is apparently torn? Update 3. My wife is moving in with her affair partner. They're in love. My life has turned into a trashy daytime talk show. The woman I once considered classy has turned into complete trailer trash. Today, she announced she's moving in with her affair partner from the gym. She's pregnant, and the baby might be his or mine. She's too embarrassed to get blood drawn for a paternity test. She spent the past week trying to get my attention, hoping I'd talk to her, maybe even beg her to stay. I didn't fall for it. I've been ignoring her for the most part, and when we do talk, I keep it brief. We've still been living together, but I'm in a separate room and doing everything on my own. Her attempts to get me to notice her didn't work, even when she bragged about not going to the gym for 5 days. Today, she texted me to say she's moving in with him. Somehow I still care about her, but I've already met with a lawyer. I can care about her as a human being and potential mother of my child without staying married to her. It still stung to hear she was going to be with him. I told her it wasn't a smart move to leave the house and suggested she meet with a lawyer. She doesn't care about anything I have to say. I asked if her affair partner knew she was pregnant and what story she'd been telling him. She said he knows and doesn't care if it's my baby. He loves her and wants to be with her. Bizarre. You really can't find someone else? A single guy with his own home, gainfully employed, and this is who you choose, a married, pregnant woman? I don't get it. He's scum, but good-looking scum who apparently has options. Yet this is what he goes for. And if this baby is mine? What then? They'll raise my child together, 50% of the time? I don't know how my life ended up like this. And she thinks the most embarrassing part is getting blood drawn for a paternity test? Update 4. My wife has agreed to a paternity test. My wife moved in with her affair partner last weekend. She didn't take much with her. Most of her belongings are still here in the house. I still get the feeling she was waiting for me to beg her to come back, but I didn't reach out to her at all after she left. It was a strange mix of relief, anger, and sadness. I didn't eat anything until last night because I just didn't feel hungry. I drank a little too much, but I'm fine. I'm posting this update because I've received a ton of messages, and honestly, it's emotionally draining to respond to each one and repeat myself. I just don't feel like talking about her that much. This morning, she texted me to say her AP wants a DNA test, so she's going to do it. Funny how it didn't matter when I wanted one, but now that he's asked, she suddenly thinks it's a great idea. She asked if I wanted to submit a sample too, because it'll be cheaper to test 2 potential fathers at once. I don't even care about the cost at this point. I just want an answer. I don't have to see or interact with them at all. I just have to make my own appointment with the lab for a cheek swab. I'm going to do it this Saturday, and we should have the results within a week. I'll take what I can get at this point because it's better than dragging this out for another 20 weeks. That's it. I'm fine. I go to work every day and try to function, but I feel stuck in limbo. I miss her, and it makes me sick that she's with him. Part of me does want to beg her to come back. It'll be even worse if I find out the baby is mine, and she's still with him. Unless he drops her after that news. But I won't let myself beg. I won't play those games with her. Update 5. My wife has been having an affair with a guy she met at the gym for nearly a year. She's around 22 weeks pregnant now. She was about 17 weeks along when I discovered she was cheating. She always insisted I was the father, but she refused to get a paternity test to ease my mind. We recently did a paternity test at her affair partner's request, and it turns out the baby is mine. The results have left me with mixed emotions. I had originally decided I wanted to be done with her, to avoid lifelong ties in the form of a child, but when the results came back, I felt sort of happy or relieved. For months before I found out about the affair, I had already accepted that I was going to be a father. Sometimes, I can't believe this is my life, that this is the situation my child will be born into. And I hate her for it. She's still living with him, and all her belongings are still here at the house. I refuse to pack anything up for her. She doesn't seem concerned about taking anything except the essentials. After we got the results, She texted me saying she was glad I'm the father and that she knows I'll be a great dad. She's been texting me baby name ideas. She's tried calling me, but I ignore the calls. I only speak with her through text. This morning, she asked if she could come by to pick up a few things. I told her it was fine, as my lawyer has advised me not to prevent her from entering the house, but I made it clear that her boyfriend better not come with her. So, who shows up with her? The scumbag boyfriend. He walked right into the house behind her like it was no big deal. She ran upstairs to grab her stuff, leaving him and me standing in the living room. He told me it wasn't her fault he was there. She told him I didn't want him to come, but he forced his way along because he wanted to talk to me. He claimed he wanted to tell me that he understands how I must be feeling. No, he doesn't. He told me he knew he probably wasn't the father, but loves her anyway, and hopes we can all get along since we'll both be in her life now. He even promised he wasn't going to try to take my place as the father, and assured me he was taking care of her. I told him I couldn't understand why he'd want to be with a pregnant woman carrying another man's child. I found it weird and told him to leave, or I'd punch him. I went upstairs, and my wife was looking for some things in the bathroom. I was angry and asked her why she brought him along. I told her I found it strange that he still wanted to be with her after knowing the baby wasn't his, and that I refused to let him be involved with my child. She apologized and said he talked her into coming. She said she never meant for any of this to happen, but now she's in love with him. Apparently, he's what 30-year-old her is looking for, not me. She's setting up a nursery at his house and told me I could set one up at mine. She assured me she doesn't plan to fight for full custody and wants me to be involved in our child's life. How generous of her. She went back downstairs, and he was still standing there in the living room. I walked up to him and punched him. He stumbled back into a table. She yelled, "What the F?" and ran over to him. I don't even care at this point. Like he's going to call the cops? He deserved it, and it wouldn't have happened if he'd just left when I told him to. Several hours later, she texted me, apologizing for today. She insisted that he really meant what he said, that he's a good guy, and that he respects me. WTF? He respects me? He was screwing my wife in a gym locker room. I couldn't believe it. I told her, "You can't be serious." She replied, "Fine. I'm trying to have a mature conversation. I can't help that we fell in love. Believe it or not, I'm not trying to hurt you. I want everything to be amicable. This guy stole my wife, and now he's stealing my child too. Sure, I'm the biological father, but they're setting up a nursery at his place. I'll try not to feel jealous or sad. I'll try to think of him as the trash man who picked up my garbage. Sometimes that helps, but the truth is I loved her. I still love her. I don't want to stay married to her, but this is devastating." Update 6. My wife is now about 26 weeks pregnant. There hasn't been much drama between her and her affair partner lately. I went away for a long weekend last week, and it was nice to get away from home for a bit. The only really annoying thing that's happened is I told her that I'm going to be in the delivery room, not him. After everything she's done, she owes me that. It's not his baby, and he has no right or reason to be there. I won't be the one waiting outside while my child is being born. She initially agreed and said she never planned on having him in the delivery room. I asked if she told him that, and she said no. I told her to let him know he won't be part of it. So, she did, and apparently he didn't like that. He started trying to convince her why he should be there. Next thing I know, she's telling me he really wants to be there, and since she's the one giving birth, she should have the final say on who's present, and she wants him there. I suppose he'll be making name suggestions soon, trying to overrule the ones we'd picked out for years. We talked a little about the divorce, and she said I can keep the house and the dog. However, I'm requesting that we sell the house and split the profit, and that's already written into the paperwork. I'm not buying her out of a house I've made all the payments on anyway. I have a much better credit score and less debt. I compromised a lot because she liked this house, but I'd rather get my own place, something that's just for me and free of reminders of her. As for the dog, there was never a chance she'd get him. I already had proof of ownership, so there's no way the court would award him to her. It's the one thing I told my lawyer I wanted above all else, not including custody issues with my child. She can have her AP, but he will never have my dog. Not to mention, my dog is 100 times more loyal than my wife, and some might even say better looking. Since I won't be living in this house much longer after the baby is born, if things move quickly, I've decided to prepare a nursery here anyway. That way, no one can accuse me of not being invested in fatherhood. I'm trying to look at the positives. I can decorate however I want without worrying about her preferences. Honestly, we've been together for so long, living together for most of our adult lives, and while it's nice not living with someone, it's also a bit lonely. I have friends and family, but I'm not always in the mood to hang out since they inevitably ask about everything that's going on. I'm tired of that being the main topic of conversation. I got a promotion at work, which would have been better financially if it had happened after the divorce, but I'll take what I can get. I feel like I'm living in limbo. Most things I do now are framed around, how will this affect me in the divorce? I admit, I sometimes spy on them on social media. I guess I'm hoping to see something like a motorcycle accident now that the weather's nice. It hasn't happened yet, but he's starting a new company, and once that's up and running, I'm considering getting friends and family to leave 1-star reviews everywhere. Gotta find ways to have a little fun. By the way, my wife told her family that we've split up and that she's with this other guy now. Her sister reached out to apologize and told me my wife had been complaining about her AP. Apparently, the sex ends when he's done, and he's selfish in bed. He doesn't do the little things she's used to from me, like clearing snow off her car in the morning or making her food after a long day. He doesn't speak her love language and spends too much time with his friends. Hearing that made me so happy. She's secretly miserable, and I find that absolutely delightful. Update 7. I'm still alive. Several people reached out, worried that I might have taken my own life. I appreciate the concern, but no, I'm not on the brink of ending my life. I think I'm doing better now than I have since all of this started. As of today, our baby is due in less than 10 weeks. We're in the home stretch, but I don't feel prepared at all. All the other stuff has been so distracting. I started working on the nursery. It's not finished yet, but the floor is done and the walls are painted. My ex-wife was impressed with the color scheme and furniture I chose. She's not legally my ex yet, but I've started calling her that. It makes things easier. I also packed up a bunch of her stuff. Originally, I refused to spend time packing her things, but eventually, I just said screw it and started packing. I've realized it's easier not to see her stuff lying around. I should have done it sooner. She came over to pick up the boxes I packed. She came alone. Things between us were fine. I loaded the stuff in her car, and we didn't argue. At one point, she started to tear up and admitted she'd messed up. I told her, yeah, you did, but added that there's no point in talking about it now. She ruined our marriage, and now she has her muscle-bound AP to go home to. She said, I know, but it's not the same. I told her nothing has been the same since the first time she slept with him. Supposedly, he's going to let me be in the delivery room when our baby is born. I didn't argue with her when she put it like that, but inside I was boiling at the idea of him allowing me to be present at my own child's birth. She said they talked, and he agreed it wouldn't be right to keep me out. I'll take what I can get if it means being there for the birth of my child. I'm going to try my best to ignore him for now. She was acting sweet, laying on the I really want you there, I really need you there stuff, and I know I'm not mentally in a place to be cold to her when she starts acting like that. I try to stay indifferent, but it's hard when she's around, looking at me in a way that makes me feel bad. She even invited me to see the nursery they've set up at his house. I'm not sure I can bring myself to go into another man's house and look at the nursery for my child. I asked her if she's truly safe there. As angry as I still am, I don't want to find out later that he's mistreating her, and I definitely don't want my child growing up in an unsafe household. I haven't told her about what her sister said. They probably won't last, but for now, there's a real chance my newborn baby will be going home to his house. It kills me to think about, and it's soul-crushing if I dwell on it too long. She insists she's fine and says he genuinely loves her. He's supposedly great with kids and accepts that she's having a baby as part of the package. She claims it's not weird because she wasn't pregnant when they first got together. I asked her why she did it, why she let anything happen between them in the first place. She said, I don't know, then quickly added, I don't want to talk about this, and left soon after. Typical behavior from her. Just run away. Update 8. I have a baby. A little girl. I'm a dad. She was born yesterday at 11:57 p.m., 2 weeks early. As he's done before, her AP left for work yesterday morning while she was having off and on pains. She worked from home on Mondays. Around 8:30 a.m., she told me she was having contractions 17 minutes apart. The same thing happened not long ago, but by evening, the pains had stopped. I was at work, so I told her to keep me posted. A little later, she said they were 15 minutes apart and that she had other signs labor might actually be starting. I asked if she needed someone with her. She said she wanted me to come be with her. I didn't even mean to volunteer myself. She was scared. I didn't ask why she didn't call him. I left work and went over to his house. To say it was uncomfortable doesn't begin to describe it, but there were obviously more important things happening. He wasn't there. She didn't even contact him. She said she just wanted it to be me and her. In her words, he hadn't seen her pee or shit herself yet, but I had, so she was more comfortable with me there. I tried to be as nice and supportive as possible, setting aside thoughts of her affair, our marriage, everything for a brief time. I'm not sure what my role was supposed to be, but I think she just needed someone there so she didn't feel alone. She spent most of the time stretching, doing yoga labor routines, and bouncing on a giant exercise ball. I mostly twiddled my thumbs and looked through some of his belongings. I was timing the contractions, and they were consistent and slowly getting closer together, so I figured labor was actually happening this time. It wasn't far enough along to go to the hospital yet, but it was getting close to the time when he'd be home. I was already planning how to handle that when she called me into the bathroom to ask if I thought her water had broken. It wasn't like in the movies with a huge gush, but it seemed like it. Then he got home, and I was there. His first question was, "What are you doing here?" I think he thought something else was going on. "No, dude, you went to work and left her alone when she was scared." He said he was home now and that he'd be with her until it was time to go to the hospital. He put his hand on my shoulder and said something like, "Thanks, bud. I got it from here, and we'll call you when we're on the way to the hospital." He called me bud. I told him I wasn't his buddy and to fuck off. I could tell she wanted me to leave. I'm not sure she truly wanted me to go, but she was in labor, and the tension between the two of us wasn't what she needed. And I knew that. It was his house, so what was I supposed to do? I left and prayed they'd actually call me instead of letting me find out the next day that my child had been born. She texted me a few hours later, saying the doctor told her to go to the hospital. At that point, I still didn't know if I'd be waiting outside or what he'd decide was best for his apparent wife and child. I was allowed to be in the room. I didn't force my way in. She said she wanted me there. He was there too. By far, the single most awkward experience of my life. The only reason I was able to get through it was because she asked me to be there, and I didn't want to miss my kid's birth or the chance to hold her before he did. I can't imagine what the doctors and nurses were thinking. It was humiliating. Then he tried to police what I could see. I'm the father. He's watching, and it's still my wife and my baby. I stayed dignified and ignored him. I was there for whatever she needed, not him, but in any other setting, I don't think I would have been able to hold back. The baby came flying out, at least as far as labor goes. The nurses said it, and I trust labor and delivery nurses to know what they're talking about. She tore badly because the baby came out so fast. Our daughter is so tiny, barely 6 pounds and only 18 inches, but she's perfectly healthy. I went home to rest, though I couldn't rest at all. I went back today, and of course, he was there. Surprisingly, he said he'd give us some time alone with the baby. I'm not sure if she'd asked him to do that beforehand, but I didn't question it. When he came back a few hours later, he even brought food for all of us. I wondered if mine was poisoned, but I try to be nice. He's still hanging around, and I'm wondering how long this will go on. I just can't do anything that would make her try to keep me away from my daughter now. I don't want them making things difficult for me. I'd prefer not to share her name publicly, but I can confirm that it's the name we chose for a daughter years ago. He had no say in it, and he hasn't commented on it. Still, it kills me to see him holding her. Eventually, I had to leave because it was too much sitting there pretending everything was fine. I know I'll get my time with her when he's not around. He's already posting pictures of them on social media. I don't know how I'm going to handle this, but I'll figure it out. I have to be the bigger person because I won't let him or their relationship discourage me from being my daughter's dad. I completely understand the feeling of doing anything for your kids now. And if that means pretending to get along with him, I will. Update 9. I'm still on paternity leave. I've been regularly spending time with my daughter. We have a set schedule for when she stays with me, so I'm spending less time at his house. Sometimes, my ex-wife needs help during the day, just a shower or nap, so I go over to help. Really, I'm just trying to spend as much time as possible with my daughter and bond with her. Breastfeeding hasn't been going well. She's not producing enough milk, and it's been tough on her. But it's also made things easier for me when I have the baby. At least she has help when the baby is with her. Supposedly, he helps and gets up at night. I'm on my own, and while it's not easy, I think I'm getting the hang of it. The other day, she called me, saying she was on the verge of a mental breakdown. I've heard this many times before, usually when she was cheating without me knowing, and it was often related to work. I went over, and she said she couldn't handle being a mom, couldn't handle life, couldn't function. She was crying. This time, she couldn't just run off to the gym. She would if she could, but she's not cleared to exercise yet. She won't talk to anyone or seek professional help. Some days, she seems much better, but she's easily overwhelmed. We've had some surprisingly good moments. The most she can do right now is walk, so we took the baby on her longest walk yet from his house to mine. Everything was fine on the walk. She was in a good mood, and we were joking around. But once we were at my house, our former home, she became sad. After a while, she admitted this isn't how it's supposed to be, raising our daughter between two homes. She said my house is our daughter's real home, and that our child is only supposed to have one home. Then she started sobbing about how she doesn't have a home anymore. She said she doesn't feel at home in my house or her AP's house. She's essentially homeless and doesn't belong anywhere. She admitted she messed up badly and doesn't want to share custody or only see her daughter half the time. She just wants to come home, but she still loves him and doesn't want to hurt him after all he's done for her. I told her that what she wants for her kid should come before his feelings. If he can't get over the fact that the married, pregnant woman he was sleeping with wants her child to grow up in a single home with her actual father, he can fuck off. He can fuck off regardless. If she can't tell him and wants me to do it, I will. She doesn't think she can tell him. I told her biggest issue is her inability to communicate honestly. She needs to stop being afraid to tell people the truth about how she really feels. Thing is, I've been tolerating him lately. I don't like him, but I tolerate him. I'm never going to hang out with him. Ever. It sounds crazy coming from me, but I think he's genuinely in this. It doesn't absolve him of any of his involvement. He's back to being overly nice to me, suggesting we hang out and be friends. He's so happy all the time, it's unsettling, but maybe that's what she likes about him. I'm not that kind of person, and I never will be. Anyway, she and I got into an argument. It started as a discussion, turned into an argument, then shifted back into a discussion about everything we don't like about each other and our relationship. In the end, we were both able to express what we need from one another. But right now, she's too overwhelmed to make any changes. The idea of changing anything gives her anxiety. So, we're at an impasse. And with the house situation on top of everything else, I've been extra stressed and not exactly pleasant to be around. Update 10. This month continues to be the strangest I've ever experienced. The repairs to my house are done, and I'm finally back home. I could only take a few nights under my parents' roof. I slept with someone else. We went on a date, but I think we both just wanted to have sex to say we'd finally moved on from our former spouses. She's the ex-wife of a friend of mine, and now she and I are actually closer than I am with her ex-husband. Several people have suggested that we start dating because we get along great and, on the surface, we seem like a good match. But it was too weird for both of us. She's very attractive, social, and fun to be around, and she's been incredibly kind to me during this whole ordeal, but I can't see her as more than a friend. I've been intentionally avoiding sleeping with anyone else. I haven't been with anyone since the last time I slept with my wife, which feels like an eternity ago. For the longest time, I wasn't interested in being with other women. Then it became my way of feeling morally superior to her. I was going to hold out and not pursue anything until after we were divorced. It was pointless and childish, just a dumb way to make myself feel better and say I never cheated. I still don't feel like I cheated. There is no marriage anymore. Within hours of this happening, I started getting texts from my wife saying she decided she wanted to come home. It was like she had some sixth sense. She was saying she was ready and asking if I'd help her. I called her and told her I didn't want her to come back or for us to be in a relationship again. She doesn't get to just decide that's what's going to happen. She then backtracked, saying, "Oh, I know, I just meant move back in." I told her I didn't believe her and felt like she was just jerking me around again. She said she thought our recent conversation had gone well, and she believed we were in a place where we could work on fixing everything. She said until then, she could live in another room. She was serious, and she wanted our daughter to be raised in one home. I feel so conflicted, but ultimately, I want my daughter living in my house full time, and I don't want another man helping to raise her, so I took the bait. Today, I showed up at his house to help her move some things. I expected to get there and find she had either changed her mind or never planned to leave at all, just waiting to see me jump through hoops. When I arrived, they were arguing. The baby was crying. She was crying and running around packing things, and he was following her, begging her to stay, offering to do anything to make her stay. He accused me of orchestrating the whole thing. Maybe I did. I don't know. I don't care what he thinks. It was obvious she had just sprung the news on him shortly before I got there. She kept saying over and over that she just wanted our daughter raised in one home, and that his house wasn't their real home. She apologized to him for doing this after everything he'd done, but said she had to give our daughter one home with her real father. When we got back to my house, she was obviously an emotional mess. I didn't have a room prepared for her. Not 15 minutes later, he showed up at the door. She didn't want to talk to him, but he wouldn't leave and started loudly saying things like, "That's not what you were saying when you were blowing me last night." At that point, after I'm sure our neighbors had enjoyed the scene long enough, I told him to leave or I'd call the cops. I went outside to try and calm him down. I sympathized with him. She runs away. That's what she does. I may have said a few things to make him realize he didn't want to be involved with my wife. I don't think he'll give up easily, though. Once she was in my house, I found myself wishing she'd leave with him. I had wanted her to come home, mostly for the baby's sake, but now I'm wondering what the hell I've gotten myself into. She said, "I didn't blow him last night. I haven't done anything with him since she was born. I've only been thinking about you." I told her, "You're right. You expect me to believe that? Even if it's true, why would I ever trust anything you say?" Out of spite, I told her I had slept with someone else. I know I only said it to hurt her, and I feel bad about it now. She immediately demanded to know who, but I told her it wasn't her business. She claimed it was because we're still married. Nope, not sharing. Now we're awkwardly coexisting. I don't have much faith that she'll stay here. I think she'll be back at his place within the week. I've told her he's not allowed here. He has no business being in my house. If we're raising our daughter in the same house together, she can't run off to his place whenever she feels like it. It won't work that way. She says she knows and wants me to want to be with her again, promising she'll prove she can be a good partner. She tried to kiss me, but I rejected her. She's upset and is taking a nap now. I feel like I've dug myself into a very deep hole. Update 11. I plan to divorce her. The papers are ready. I admit that I've stalled in having her served. I can't put into words why. The lawyer wanted to do it back on July 29th, but I told him I needed more time. I'm embarrassed by my hesitation, but this is my life. It's easy for uninvolved bystanders to advocate for divorce and suggest unrealistic things like getting sole custody of my daughter. If I needed to take on sole custody, I would, but my wife isn't crazy. I know everyone has a bad perception of her, and I've created that perception. Well, I didn't create it. I just shared the truth about her actions, so she created that image. That's all anyone reading my post knows about her. Nothing good. But she does have some good qualities, and believe me, I didn't want to let myself remember or acknowledge any of them for a long time. She's done horrible, hurtful, and selfish things. She's an emotional person who lives by the whims of her feelings. It's tiring and frustrating, but she's not crazy, and she's not a danger to our baby. She's not doing anything that would make a court grant me full custody. Do I think she's in the best place to raise a whole human being? No, neither am I, honestly, but she's tending to the basic needs of our child. She actually seems less of a mess and less anxious than she was a year ago, back when she had weekly meltdowns. She also co-owns our home with me. Sure, I've always paid the mortgage, but courts don't care about that when the house is in both our names. I can't just kick her out. We plan to sell the house and split the proceeds, which seemed like the easiest solution. Homes are selling fast around here, and we'd make a profit. It stings to split it, but it wasn't a hill I wanted to die on. Ultimately, I think it's best for my child to have her mother involved in her life and to develop a bond with her. Regardless of where her mom ends up living or what our relationship is like, my daughter's well-being includes the safety and stability of her mother. She needs a place to live. I'll admit that I've enjoyed some moments of normalcy we've had. You can call it rug sweeping if you want, but I'm just so tired of being angry, tired of being sad, and tired of all the drama. So when we have a few days where life feels like it used to, with fewer complications, just doing mundane things together without thinking about divorce, reconciliation, or custody, it feels kind of good. It's a chance to catch my breath. If people want to call me spineless for enjoying those moments I always dreamed of having with my first child, so be it. There are still moments when I feel annoyed. I kind of like living on my own. I thought I had gotten used to it. Sometimes, it feels like she's invading my space, but I'm handling it the best I can. There are still things I love about her, and things I now hate. I hate what she did, but I guess I still love who she used to be. Sometimes she shows glimpses of that person, and I miss her. I admit that I miss the person I fell in love with. We've been together since I was 22, and she was 20 most of our adult lives. We moved in together after only a few months. We've experienced most of life's major events together, good and bad. We lived in crappy apartments, moved across the country together, bought and sold homes, traveled, survived COVID and terrible DIY haircuts, weathered job losses, car accidents, health scares, pregnancy scares, had horrible fights, great makeup sex, and basically grew up together. Well, she didn't grow up. She has a hard time adulting. We used to be like best friends, always together. She still has a hold on me in some ways, and there's no use in denying it. Update 12. I filed for divorce. She's been served. It wasn't because of anything new she did that I haven't already shared here. I was thinking about it practically every other second for about 2 weeks and ultimately decided I couldn't live like that anymore, constantly thinking about it and wondering if I should do it. So I pulled the band-aid off and told the lawyer to move forward. The paperwork had already been completed and was just waiting for me to say go. I feel relieved. I think I was feeling more stressed, just constantly weighing what I should and shouldn't do. Now that I made a decision, I feel better. The more we're together here at home, the more I realize this isn't what I want and that I can't be with her in any sort of romantic, committed way again. I hope that we can be friends and not just co-parents who only communicate about our kid when necessary. I'm actually enjoying being around her now for the most part. I'm enjoying doing platonic things together. But the thought of anything beyond that isn't appealing to me. I love her as the person I used to be married to her, and I love and respect her as the mother of my children. But I don't love her in the same way I used to, and I don't think I can ever get over everything she's done. I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm filled with resentment and mistrust for the rest of my life. Plus, the longer she was here, the more reminders I got of the other issues in our relationship that I guess I was able to sort of brush aside before her affair came to light. I had to really weigh staying together and trying counseling and therapy if she'd agree to it, which she has never done, to try to have those feelings for her again and keep our family under one roof versus splitting time with my child, seeing her only part of the time, and almost certainly having another man/father figure in my daughter's life, if not the AP, then somebody else. It really dawned on me after she had her 6-week postnatal checkup and she was cleared for sex. She wanted us to have sex. I didn't want it all. She was upset, hurt. She still has no idea how deeply she hurt me. Prior to that, her affair partner made another appearance at our house. This time he was calm. He asked her to talk, and she told me she had to talk to him, but asked me not to leave the house. So I went in another room, and yes, I listened to their entire conversation. The gist basically was he wanted her back, and he loves her. She told him he's a great guy, but they never should have been together. She needs to be with her family, me and our daughter, and that she was sorry for getting him so involved in this mess. If it wasn't for me and our daughter, she'd be with him. But she has to choose us. She is still living here. We got into a huge argument last night. She threw water all over me. She got in her car and left, in just a t-shirt and underwear, no shoes. Same old behavior, just running away. I knew then that I made the right decision. Of course, me divorcing her doesn't change her behavior. She will act like this with anyone she's with, most likely. And in those cases, I won't be there to try to shield my daughter from it and remove her from the situation. Last night, I had to tell my wife to calm down for the sake of our daughter, to not behave that way around her. I know that children are still affected by this stuff, even if not direct witnesses. The idea of just not being there and not knowing who she might get involved with next terrifies me. So she's living here for now. I'm fine with that. Most days aren't like yesterday. Right now, she's sitting in the same room as me working on something, and everything is peaceful. I can't make her leave anyway, since it's her house too, legally. Today she was calmer, and it was an okay day. For the most part, we have a good routine down with caring for our daughter. This arrangement won't last forever, but I'm in no rush for her to leave. Ultimately, I'd prefer to sell the house and split the proceeds. This is what I put in the paperwork I filed. However, we can come to an agreed-upon date by which to list the house, and it doesn't have to be next week or even next month. I've already started looking at new places to live, but I don't feel the need to rush it. I'm tired of just having so much going on, so much in my plate to think about and worry about. I just like to relax for a damn second. The stress I've been feeling, my blood pressure is probably through the roof. Final update. My wife's post. My wife has found my posts. She's commented on my most recent post, and I've deleted her comments and blocked her. She's also made a post on True Off My Chest. Thanks to everyone who messaged me to alert me to if she had already confronted me about it in real life. I think she was disappointed that I didn't engage with her here, so she came up to me and told me to fuck myself and started yelling, "Who does that?" over and over in my face. She is also posting lies about me, including stories about me essayed her, punching holes in the walls of our home, having a drinking problem, and physically abusing her. None of that is true. She spent this weekend begging me to reconsider the divorce and trying to convince me in any way that she can. I haven't budged. I've started to sort of ignore her. She can't stand to be ignored. So now she is here posting lies, and multiple people are messaging me to ask if any of it is true. I've never physically hurt my wife, punched holes in walls, or had a drinking problem. While I was drinking more than normal in the immediate fallout after I discovered her affair and she moved in with her affair partner, I did not have a problem and I wasn't abusive. If she wants to accuse me of these things, she can accuse me in court and they can investigate. They'll find no evidence of patched walls or anyone in my life who could ever attest to me being an alcoholic. She has an obsession with this idea of me being an alcoholic, which stems from a history of that sort of problem in her household growing up. She routinely would come home from work and accuse me of drinking and tear our house apart looking for the supposed hidden alcohol I had stashed. Guess what? She never found anything. She even bought a breathalyzer and tried to force me to blow into it multiple times a day. This is trauma she has. I was not a perfect husband. I could have done many things better or differently. We did argue. I did yell sometimes. I was also away from home for long periods of time when she needed me, and I didn't take it seriously. I may be accused of being callous or cold at times, and she probably wouldn't be wrong about that. But the things she's saying on here are not true whatsoever.